world keeps evolving. The times keep changing. The new generation of technology. The new generation of information. They bring the future before us. Institut Teknologi 10 November, a place where the spirit of heroism underlies the new generation to research and innovate in technology. The University of Heroes, ITS. ITS is one of the best science and technology universities in Indonesia, which was founded by Dr. Angga in 1957. In every step, ITS focuses in advancing education, research, management, and community service. As an incorporated public university, ITS has been able to manage autonomously the policy of academics, organizations, finance, students' affairs, human resources, facilities, operational, and infrastructure.
In the spirit of Indonesian heroes, during the battle in the 10th of November 1945, ITS always makes efforts to be the best in education, research, and community services, especially in the fields of industry and maritime. ITS also actively contributes to the nation development, and in the future, ITS will become an entrepreneurial university with world-class reputation.
ITS has many achievements. Both national and international achievements prove ITS is a place for new hopes to grow. An ideal environment for the new generation to flourish in 3 strategic locations within the industrial city of Surabaya. As a smart eco-campus, ITS maintains harmony between technological advances and the sustainability of the surrounding ecosystem. ITS has 7 faculties with prospective scientific fields, including Scientics, INSIS, Vocation, Creatis, MorTech, Electics, SIFPlan. ITS is a space for the new generation who are hungry for knowledge because it provides a wide range of references in both physical and digital form. ITS makes it easier for the new generation to access information by providing flexible classes. ITS keeps moving forward in facing future challenges by providing the best facilities for the new generation's activities. The facilities support both spiritual and physical needs. ITS also provides research facilities in the ITS Science Technopark, including ICT and robotics, automotive, maritime, and creative industries. Therefore, the excellent generations from ITS will emerge and make history. ITS is a space for the new generation to express themselves. ITS is a place where the new generation learns new things and finds their purpose. ITS has become a place where the new generations that carry the future will be born.
ITS is a campus of science and technology, which focuses on the research and innovation, presenting technology for prosperity.
With a spirit of heroism, ITS brings the future before us. ITS, the University of Heroes. The world keeps evolving. The times keep changing. The new generation of technology. The new generation of information. They bring the future before us. Institut Teknologi 10 November, a place where the spirit of heroism underlies the new generation to research and innovate in technology. The University of Heroes, ITS. ITS is one of the best science and technology universities in Indonesia, which was founded by Dr. Angga in 1957. In every step, ITS focuses in advancing education, research, management, and community service. As an incorporated public university, ITS has been able to manage autonomously the policy of academics, organizations, finance, students' affairs, human resources, facilities, operational, and infrastructure.
In the spirit of Indonesian heroes, during the battle in the 10th of November 1945, ITS always makes efforts to be the best in education, research, and community services, especially in the fields of industry and maritime. ITS also actively contributes to the nation development, and in the future, ITS will become an entrepreneurial university with world-class reputation.
ITS has many achievements. Both national and international achievements prove that ITS keeps growing and gives the best contribution to the nation of Indonesia. ITS is a place for new hopes to grow. An ideal environment for the new generation to flourish in 3 strategic locations within the industrial city of Surabaya. As a smart eco-campus, ITS maintains harmony between technological advances and the sustainability of the surrounding ecosystem. ITS has 7 faculties with prospective scientific fields, including Scientics, INSIS, Vocation, Creatis, Martech, Electics, Plan. ITS is a space for the new generation who are hungry for knowledge because it provides a wide range of references in both physical and digital form. ITS makes it easier for the new generation to access information by providing flexible classes. ITS keeps moving forward in facing future challenges by providing the best facilities for the new generation's activities. The facilities support both spiritual and physical needs.
Pak Profesor Wong kayaknya sudah ada di ruang tunggu. Kita admit ya Pak Imam ya. Halo, Pak Imam?
Ya, Pak. Bisa dengar suara saya?
Sekarang kedengaran, ya.
Oke, ya. Oke.
Ini keynote-nya sudah di ruang tunggu. Saya masukkan ya?
Masukkan aja keynote-nya dulu, Pak. Oke.
Ya. Hello, Professor Wong.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining a bit early. So we have the time to have a brief chat before we start.
My pleasure.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wong.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. My colleague, Dr. Imam Baihaki, who is also the Dean of Faculty in ITS.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, join. Probably we will start around exactly around 3 probably. Yeah. Do you want to check your PowerPoint? To share it.
Okay, I try to share my screen and see whether it's working or not.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, looking good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Could you please show up this PowerPoint full screen?
Look clear?
Yes, look good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop sharing now.
Yes.
So your session will be chaired by Professor Caroline Chan from Monash University in Australia. But she was just texting me just now saying that her network connection is bad.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully she could join by the time she has to chair your session.
No worries. Let's just hope that the internet is working as well from my side.
Yeah, hope so.
I'd like to thank you very much for inviting me to give me a chance to speak in your conference.
You're welcome. It's very much, our pleasure actually to have you here. So are you currently in the UK or in other country? Your location now?
I'm currently in the UK, in Leeds.
Because I heard that you are also associated with a university in Thailand or in other?
Yes, I'm a visiting professor in Thailand, Thammasat Business School.
Right. Okay, Pak Bambang. Welcome, Pak Bambang. Dr. Bambang is the Vice Rector who will be opening this conference. So he just joined.
Great.
So the number of paper presented is around 40 something, which is significantly less than the usual offline conference that we have. But it's good, still very much international. But the number of participants is quite a lot. So many people will be listening to your talk.
That's very good. Thank you very much.
Joining only as a listener, participant. It's not as a presenter. And some of them are actually coming from industry. In addition.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Hello, Pak Bambang. Welcome, Pak Bambang.
Hey, how are you, Prof. Wong?
Thank you very much. So Professor Wong is already joining. He is speaker from Leeds University.
What time is it now, Prof. Young, in UK?
Hello, it's about 8 o'clock here in the morning.
Ah, very early.
Sorry to wake up you.
Don't worry, I normally start working at 8.
Oh,
Right.
so you're a morning person.
Yes, I am.
So Dr. Bambang is a Vice Rector who is in charge of cooperation, research, innovation, cooperation, and alumni. He also was graduated from the UK. Betul ya, Pak Bambang? You graduated
Birmingham
from
University.
Birmingham University.
From Birmingham.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, not too far from Leeds. My pleasure to meet you, Dr. Bambang.
Nice to meet you.
I was from Lancaster actually, so.
Okay.
So we all are alumni of United Kingdom.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Good to see.
So I just wait for Professor Caroline. If she's not in, probably we will start quite soon.
We still have 5 minutes.
Yeah, we still have 5 minutes. Before we will, after this, we will admit the participants. There are quite a lot who is also already in the waiting room. So I think we will start at round 3.
Good afternoon, Professor Caroline.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Bu. You finally joining.
Everyone.
Hi.
Hello. How is Melbourne?
Actually, it's better now. We can we have mask as an optional now. And, yeah, so you don't have to wear it all the time. And today is the first day I took the train, and it was very quiet. So it's really good. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. So we have here already Professor Wong from Leeds University.
Excellent. Yes.
Professor Wong. This is Professor Caroline from Monash University. So she will be chairing your session.
Hello, Professor Chan. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Professor Wong. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Okay. What time is it over there now?
It's 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so we make you wake up very early.
Not quite. I used to attend conferences where I have to attend at 2 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning.
Okay, yeah.
So sometimes it's US time, sometimes it's the Australian time. So I'm used to it.
Yes. Okay. And how is UK now? You out of lockdown, yeah? There is no more lockdown, or?
Yes and no. We have eased the lockdown a little bit, but there are increasing cases in other parts of the UK, like London now.
Right, okay. Oh, well, in Melbourne, we have over a month now, there is no single cases. There is no death, no single cases. However, yesterday we had 5, but they all come from overseas because we start opening the border and let the citizen and permanent residency coming back.
Okay.
So yeah, and they come and they have,
Right, we can't compare with you because we have 15,000 to 20,000 cases per day.
Yeah, oh, that's terrible, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, Bu Caroline, we also have Pak Bambang, who is Vice Rector for Research and Innovation and Alumni in ITS. So he will be opening.
Selamat sore, Bu Caroline.
Halo, Pak Bambang. Apa kabar?
Hello. Baik. You speak Indonesian? Are you Indonesian? You speak Indonesian?
Well, I was born in Surabaya, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
And, but I've been in Melbourne for 30 years. So
Oh, but you still speak Indonesian well.
Yes, a little bit. Yeah. Masih bisa, yes.
Masih bisa. That's nice to hear.
Okay, so it is 3 o'clock now. So we will admit all participants and we are going to start quite soon.
Excellent.
Okay, silakan Bu Dewanti di admit all ya.
Tanggal 18. Ayo Zoom bareng nih. Sampai mana ya? Wis masuk.
Loh.
Mengurus Oke, masuk ya. Wis masuk ya.
The world keeps evolving. The times keep changing. The new generation of technology. The new generation of information. They bring the future before us. Institut Teknologi 10 November. A place where the spirit of heroism underlies the new generation to research and innovate in technology. The University of Heroes, ITS. ITS is one of the best science and technology universities in Indonesia, which was founded by Dr. Angga in 1957. In every step, ITS focuses in advancing education, research, management, and community service. As an incorporated public university, ITS has been able to manage autonomously the policy of academics, organizations, finance, students' affairs, human resources, facilities, operational, and infrastructure.
In the spirit of Indonesian heroes, during the battle in the 10th of November 1945, ITS always makes efforts to be the best in education, research, and community services, especially in the fields of industry and maritime. ITS also actively contributes to the nation development, and in the future, ITS will become an entrepreneurial university with world-class reputation.
ITS has many achievements. Both national and international achievements prove the ITS keeps growing and gives the best contribution to the nation of Indonesia. ITS is a place for new hopes to grow. An ideal environment for the new generation to flourish in 3 strategic locations within the industrial city of Surabaya. As a smart eco-campus, ITS maintains harmony between technological advances and the sustainability of the surrounding ecosystem. ITS has 7 faculties with prospective scientific fields, including Scientics, INSIS, Vocation, Creatis, Martech, Electics, Plan. ITS is a space for the new generation who are hungry for knowledge because it provides a wide range of references in both physical and digital form. ITS makes it easier for the new generation to access information by providing flexible classes. ITS keeps moving forward in facing future challenges by providing the best facilities for the new generation's activities. The facilities support both spiritual and physical needs. ITS also provides research facilities in the ITS Science Technopark, including ICT and Robotics, Automotive, Maritime, and Creative Industries. Therefore, the excellent generations from ITS will emerge and make history. ITS is a space for the new generation to express themselves. ITS is a place where the new generation learns new things and finds their purpose. ITS has become a place where the new generations that carry the future will be born.
ITS is a campus of science and technology, which focuses on the research and innovation, presenting technology for prosperity.
With a spirit of heroism, ITS brings the future before us. ITS, the University of Heroes.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please, before starting today's event. Please allow us to announce some protocols for those of you who are joining this conference. First, make sure your ID screen is clearly made using the name and agency or work unit. And the second one is enable muted audio or mute mode during this event. And after that, set the position where the most comfortable and not behind the light to prevent backlight. and make sure the network is in the best condition with a stable internet connection. Also, it is recommended for use a headset or earphone so that the voice can heard clearly. And for the last, for those of you who joined the question and answer session and wanted to ask question, you can use the raise hand features and use the comment column that has been provided. All right, so before we proceed the program today, we would like to express our sincere gratitude. Distinguished Dr. Bambang Pramujati as a Vice Rector for Research, Innovation, Cooperation, and Alumni ITS. Distinguished Professor Chee Wong from Leeds University, UK. Distinguished Professor Caroline Chan from Monash University, Australia. And Distinguished Professor Nyoman Pujawan as the Chairman OSCM 2020. And also authors, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to welcome to you all to the 10th International Conference on Operation and Supply Chain Management, OSCM 2020, and may the blessing of the Almighty God be with us. Before we begin, we would like to walk you through the agenda this afternoon. So for the first agenda, there will be opening speech by Chairman of OSCM 2020, Professor Nyoman Pujawan. And after that, there will be a welcoming speech by Dr. Bambang Pramujati as a Vice Rector for Research, Innovation, Cooperation, and Alumni ITS. And the next one is plenary session by Professor Chee Wong from Leeds University, UK. And after that, there will be a break session, followed by first parallel session and break session again. And for the last session, there will be second parallel session. And it's being a great honor for me, Manali, to be standing here and welcome each and every one of you in OSCM 2020. And we would like to announce that this conference are organized by MMT ITS. All right, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now we would like to invite the chairman of OSCM 2020 to deliver the opening report, also welcoming speech. To Professor Nyoman Pujawan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are now. First of all, I would like to greet our respected guests, Vice Rector for Research, Innovation, Cooperation, and Alumni of ITS, Dr. Bambang Pramujati. Also, our special guest, Professor Chee Wong from Leeds University, who will be our keynote speaker today. Welcome also to Professor Caroline Chan from Monash University, who will share the keynote session. All presenters, conference participants, and committee members. Welcome to the 10th International Conference on Operation and Supply Chain Management. This conference was initially planned to take place in New Zealand, but due to COVID-19 pandemic, we changed it to online. The aim of the conference is to bring together researchers in the area of operation and supply chain management to share their research work so that together we can collectively contribute to knowledge and practice of operation and supply chain management. As many of you know, this conference is the continuation of many earlier conferences. The first OSCM conference was held in Bali in 2005. The success of the first conference was then followed by the second one in Bangkok in 2007, and then in Malaysia in 2009, and then we went to Maldives in 2011, and then New Delhi in 2013, back to Bali in 2014, and we had it in Phuket, Thailand in 2016, and then we were in Cranfield, United Kingdom in 2018, and last year we had it in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. In each of these conferences, The participants enjoyed a productive discussion among OSCM scholars, friendly environments, nice conference dinners, and enjoyable conference tours. Unfortunately, this year we will miss some of these memorable things, but I'm sure we still tap the major benefits of the conference. In this 10 OSCM conference, there will be over 45 papers presented, representing authors from around 21 countries. Not big in numbers, but I see strong in quality and in international spread of the authors. This year, the conference brings a very important theme: technology, people, and innovation in supply chains. We are all aware that technology has radically changed the way supply chains are structured and operated. With the development of Industry 4.0, we have witnessed the wave of digitalization and automation in various stages of the supply chain. Innovation in technology have also created issues on how humans interact with machines in production and logistics systems. Therefore, the current theme is very timely and expected to stimulate more thought on how to better design and operate supply chain in the future. Finally, I would like to thank all who have contributed to the success of this conference, the keynote speaker, and all other speakers. I would also thank all the committee members and the reviewers who have spent their time to make this conference a success. I hope that all of you continuously support this conference in the future. Thank you.
Nyoman Pujawan. All right. Thank you, Professor Nyoman Pujawan, for the welcoming speech. And the next welcoming speech will be delivered by Dr. Bambang Pramujati as a Vice Rector for Research, Innovation, Cooperation, and Alumni ITS. To Dr. Bambang Pramujati, the floor now is yours.
Okay, thank you. Suara saya bisa didengar? Okay, saya.
It's good, Pak. It's good.
Okay, baik. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Speaker, Keynote Speaker, Prof. Wong from Leeds University, Conference Chair, Prof. Nyoman Pujawan, and Dr. Imam Baihaqi of ITS, and also Prof. Chan from Monash University, Bu Caroline, selamat sore. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all presenters and participants of this conference. Good afternoon and good morning for some of you from Indonesia, Surabaya, Indonesia. Praise to God the Almighty for the health and the opportunity that are given to us, such that we are all have the opportunity to virtually meet in this event. It is a great honor for me to welcome you to the 10th International Conference on Operation and Supply Chains Management. First of all, I'd like to convey our sincere gratitude to the keynote speakers for your time and effort to join and share your valuable experience to all participants within this conference. Appreciation also goes to both steering and organizing committees who have worked their best to organize and run this event successfully. I know that a successful conference always involves hard work and dedication of many people. Ladies and gentlemen, looking at the abstract book, I'm very much confident to say that this is a truly international conference. It is involving more than 100 researchers from 21 different countries, indicating that the strong international nature of the conference. I'm also glad to see that this conference is growing well. It was initiated in this country 15 years ago, and it has been organized in many different countries. It is a pleasure to know that our institute plays an important role in developing and maintaining this important conference. The conference picked an important theme relating technology, people, and innovation in supply chains. Indeed, these three things are increasingly more important in the modern society. We always attempt to use technology to help what we do. Technologies have been always instrumental in human life. In the early age, people use technology to find food, create shelter, as well as to travel. In the context of supply chains, technology has been used to produce, transport, and store goods, as well as to support information flows. In the last few years, we have witnessed various technology development in supply chains, including, for example, drone for parcel delivery, driverless trucks starting to operate in some countries, robot used for material handling in the warehouse, smart glass to support operation in distribution center. But it is very important to note that whatever innovation we do and whatever technology we develop, humans should be at the center. Technology should not harm human in the broad sense, but to help human to have better life in the long term. In our institute, we always encourage technology innovation. We encourage our researchers to develop technology that can support human life. Here in ITS, we have played an important role in various technology innovation related to transportation, health system, and many others. With COVID-19, we have been forced to work differently, taking more care of safety. For example, ITS has developed robots that have been used in some hospitals. Recently, we also developed driverless car that can potentially be used for future transportation. Ladies and gentlemen, hope that you all can take the benefit of being here in this conference, learn from each other, especially from the keynote speaker, share your experiences, and build the network for the future. Finally, on behalf of the organizer, I'd like to apologize for any inconvenience due to our services or action during the conference. I wish all of you a fruitful and productive session. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Bambang Pramujati, for the welcoming speech. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now we come to our main program, the plenary session that will be led by Professor Chee Wong from Leeds University, UK. And he also known as Editor-in-Chief of International of Physical Distribution and Logistic Management. And now he would like to present with the topic of presentation, researching technology, people, and innovation in supply chains towards meaningful and impactful scholarly research articles. But before that, let us introduce our great moderator who will guide this plenary session. Welcome Professor Dr. Caroline Chan from Monash University, Australia. To Professor Caroline Chan, the floor now is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so delighted to be able to be part of this conference online. I do miss the conference in the past where we all get together, but this is the best we can do at the moment. So congratulations to Pak Nyoman and the team, and also the ITS, Pak Bambang and the whole ITS for being able hosting this conference online. Can you all hear me? I hope.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Right. So it is a pleasure for me to introduce our keynote speaker today. And we are very, very lucky to have a very special keynote speaker from Leeds University. So Dr. Chee Wong is a professor of the supply chain management and also the director of the Center for Operation and Supply Chain Research at Leeds University. And University of Leeds, UK, and he has more than 9 years of industrial working and consultancy experience in operation, purchasing, production, inventory and distribution management, and supply chain design with small, medium enterprises and multinational companies specialized in beverage, retail, consumer goods, toy engineering, metal production, and polymer distribution. He also has taught logistics and supply chain and operations management for undergraduate, Master of Science, the MBA, PhD, and executive education programs. He has completed supervised 7 HDR students and also acted as external examiner for 9 of the PhD defenses. So Professor Wong is the editor-in-chief of International Journal of Physical Distribution and Logistics Management, a highly ranked journal. And his research interests include supply chain integration, digital supply chain analytics, and green supply chain. He has published more than 70 academics and practitioner articles, including high-quality journals such as Journal of Operation Management JOM, International Journal of Operation and Production Management IJOPM, and Journal of Supply Chain Management JSCM, International Journal of Physical Distribution and Logistics Management IGPDLM, and International Journal of Production Economy IGPE. And then also Supply Chain Management, an international journal SCMIG, Production Planning and Control PPC, and many, many others. He is co-author for a book called Sustainable Logistics and Supply Chain Management. Professor Wong is also Bua Leong ASEAN Chair Professor from 2019 till 2021 at Thammasat Business School, Thammasat University, Thailand. His co-author's JOM paper was awarded the finalist of the Jack Meredith Best Paper Award in 2016. He is also winners of the Emerald Best Paper Award for Supply Chain Management International Journal in 2006, and Professor Siande Sao Best Paper Award at the International Conference on Operation and Supply Chain Management, Kaifeng in China 2017. I couldn't list so many, and I never read so many journals paper and all of this achievement that Professor Wong has done. So I think we are very, very lucky to have him to share his thought and to share his knowledge with us. So with that, let me introduce Professor Wong as a keynote speaker for this conference today. Professor Wong, please take the floor.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be invited to speak to you in this distinguished conference. And also, I'm very thankful for Professor Chan, Professor Bambang, and Professor Pujawan for your generosities and invitation to give you a speech here. I'm going to share with you my presentation here, and I hope you can see it. Now, I have planned to speak to you about researching technology, people, innovation in supply chain. I want to emphasize and focus on the very early stage of deciding a research problem to address. And I like to think about what research actually can be considered as meaningful and impactful. And I echo what Professor Bambang said about whatever research we do, it has to put the people in the center. Whatever we do, does it give benefit, meaningful impact to people? With this, I would like to go on with some background of why we need to research technology, people, innovation in supply chain. And then I will discuss a bit about my thought and my view about what are interesting and meaningful impact research. The first thing I like to do is actually ask you to consider a little questionnaire, if you may. I hope I can send it to the chat here. Yeah. So you can see in the chat box, if you can multitask, listening to me at the same time, trying to answer one question and make multiple choices, that will be great, because I will be going back to these questions later in about 5-10 minutes time. Okay, all the link and the instructions how to join the room and how to answer the quiz is all in there. If you have time, do it there while you are listening to me, and if not, it is fine, and we can review the answers a bit later. All right, I'm going to give us a bit of a context why we need to research technology, people, and innovation. We are in a very interesting phase now, because we are entering the 4th industrial revolution, and we all are very lucky to be in this stage. But we also need to understand what roles do we play as a researcher. Now, basically, the 4th industrial revolution is coming from a continuity of the 3rd industrial revolution, where electronics and computers are used to help us to make our job easier, and also help us to automate at the same time making smarter decisions. You can see in the past we have developed technologies like MRP, like ERP, and using EDI to transmit data and automations to help us in our job. What is important for us to think about is the current industrial revolutions. Now, I purposely leave this 4th industrial revolution blank for 2 reasons. One is that it has not finished, so we do not know how it looks like. Second, it's more important for us to consider our role. You and me can shape how the 4th industrial revolution is going to be. And it's important for us to think as researchers what we can do to paint pictures on these blank sheets. All right. Now, of course, we have to start somewhere. There are already a lot of people trying to define what this Industrial 4.0 or 4th Industrial Revolution is. I want to pick these 2 definitions here because they are very important for us to consider. The first one is from APICS. They come from a more technocratic perspective, focusing on the opportunity to share, analyze information, and create intelligent actions. We also want to understand that this is not just about one technology or 2 technologies, it's the systems of combination of technologies that matters. Then from the second definitions in the bottom here, you can see from World Economic Forum, they also recognize that the revolutions depends on fusions of technology from a system perspective. However, the World Economic Forum has other concerns. They focus more on, or they worry more about disruption. Now, disruption can be good because it could be actually generating lots of opportunity for prosperity. But it can also disrupt and destroy in some industry, some countries, and some jobs. So our job as a researchers is not only about developing the technology, it is also very important for us to understand how we can help a company or industry or country to transform the entire system of production. Also the management and governance. I'll explain to you more why we have to go beyond just technology and to look into the system of productions and management later. Okay. Now, we have talked about lots of technologies. We have mentioned lots of technologies. I just like to use this slide to show us that there are a periphery of different technologies developed by different people, different organizations, and then the question is actually how we may develop, combined use of this technology for common good and for efficiencies and for economy. All right. Now the questions come to this: what counts as meaningful scholarly research that can create real impact to the management of technology, people, and innovation? I want to emphasize here the management rather than just the engineering, technology, or just the people or innovation activities. It is the management that needs transformations because the world is no longer pure physical activities. Now we have lots of data. We have lots of interaction between different objects and data within the supply chain. What is meaningful? What is research that create real impact is the questions I want to ask. Now I have given you a list of questions, and I'd like to go through these questions with you. Now, the reason why I ask you these questions is that, one, I've seen lots of these kind of papers published. Second, I also received lots of submissions that answers this kind of questions. And I want to have a discussion with you about why we want to answer these questions and what we can actually create if we answer these kind of questions. Apology, this is a long list, but these are the main questions or research projects that I see. Now, the first two questions focus a lot on trying to review the literatures or discussions in the social media, what topic has been discussed. The question about this method and this approach is that some of this research can only tell us briefly, in a very abstract manner, what topic has been studied or discussed. And of course, it's very easy to find lots of topics and ideas or trends has not been studied because we are in a new revelation. And the second group of studies look at the effects or performance of using this technology. That is question 3 and 4. And I have received sometimes some papers that say they have collected lots of data from companies and they found positive effects of using blockchain or artificial intelligence, or they say, okay, all these companies can get benefit out of these technologies. I urge people to do this research to think about it carefully because you don't really find that many companies who have actually implemented this technology. People are still in a very early stage to think about what is this about. And in a very early stage, if you try to speculate too much and then you collect data from people who actually have not done it, it is not going to help us to understand the benefit of this technology. And then you have question 5 and 6, mostly using the techniques that we know, the theory that we know, to understand a new phenomenon. Sometimes it can be useful, but sometimes it's actually trying to reproduce a research that we have done years ago when we think about other technologies. And it doesn't really add new insight if you think about using old concept theories and to understand something very emerging. Okay, and then there's some other research like number 7 is trying to use optimizations that could be beneficial if they really understand how the technologies behaves and how people react and use technology. Question number 8 is a bit more exploratory. It might give us some understanding because it is going to get data from what managers think, how they adopt, how they view, and how to implement technologies. That perhaps is something beneficial. Okay. I like to use this opportunity to say all these are the methods that we use or theory that we use because we are familiar with it, because we have seen it before, we've seen it published before. But I like to challenge our perspective a bit more. Because the kind of research we do, especially question number 1 to number 7, they don't actually give us new insight as much as we want for a new phenomenon that we are witnessing now. Why? Simply because we are trying to repeat using the same ideas, same concepts, same theories to understand something very different, very new. All right. So I'm urging you to think about it in a different way. Okay. I'm trying to perhaps bring us one step back to ask ourselves questions. Why do we do research? And I've seen a lot of people talk about research when they talk about gaps. Why do we want to address gap? What gaps do we address? Now here, I'd like to offer you 4 principles. And hopefully you see the point of why we have to emphasize these 4 principles on very early stage of your research. What do you want to do in your research? Now, of course, if I ask a question, why do we do research? We have everyone very pragmatic answers. Answer number 1, my dean expect me to do research and publish in top journals. Option number 2, it is one way to get us promoted. And it's important for us to publish because then we can become a professor. I understand all these are good reasons. But what I want to emphasize here, if you have adopted the 4 principles I introduced here, you will have a better chance to create meaningful research as well as being able to publish. The first one is why do we want to do research? The goal of research is to understand a real-life phenomenon or managerial problem. The goal of research is not to get published and get promoted. And if you can focus on this, then you can orient yourself to ask managerial questions, real-life phenomenon that you want to understand. All right. And the second orientation that I need to emphasize here. Now, we want to understand real-life problem. We need to have our own tools. We are scientific researchers, so our tools are theories, assumptions, concepts, data, method. All right. And our role is to develop and define these tools. At the same time, sometimes we have to reject tools or theories or concepts or data that is no longer relevant. And if you can emphasize on point number 1 and number 2, then your research become impactful or meaningful. And the third one is a way to think about justifying your research projects. We always see people claiming lack of study as an interesting gap, as a contribution. It is, of course, very obvious. We are now in the new phase of regulations. Lots of things are new. And obviously, there is lack of study. But what is more important is actually justifying based on what we understand least, the knowledge gap, rather than the study gap. With this, then you have the 4th principle here. When we understand gaps or what we do not know, we should focus on no one has studied this before or no one has used this method before, but we should focus more on the tensions between the different ways to conceptualize, to understand the real world problem. And that orientations will help you perhaps to think about research in a more meaningful manner. Okay, now another way to look at it is this. If I receive a submission of papers that talk about lack of studies as a contributions, then I would find it difficult to find reasons to consider the paper. But what is important when you consider interesting research is that you have to first justify that research, the problem you want to address is important. The knowledge that you want to create is important to know by managers, policymakers, and so on. Then you need to go on to justify that currently there are different tools, theories, concepts, and so on to understand this, and what is not enough. And therefore, what we can do to understand it better. Okay, that is the orientations that I hope we can see when you try to think about how to justify your research from a meaningful and impactful perspective. Now, what I want to introduce to you is the way of thinking at the very early stage of your research, how you generate ideas. And what I want to emphasize is using a process called problematization. All right. And if you can see from the screen, here you have a famous framework on how you develop research questions by Professor John Mansell and Kenneth Kahn. They started from idea generation and asked us to go and review the literature. And because the idea can be new to the literature, then you can justify using this idea called substantive justification and say, all right, my idea is new or my theory is new, and my result finding can be new to the field, to the operation supply chain field, and therefore I can justify my research as meaningful or some contribution. And they also say it is sometimes important to do observations of the real life problem, managers' problems, and so on. And what I want to emphasize here is there are different ways to look at problematizations, which is the one that I prefer. On the right-hand side here, you can see more observation-driven approach to define ideas. So you start with observation. Observation can be speaking to managers or policymakers, observing what happened to the industry, or reading some of the latest blog and discussion in the industry about the problems they want to address. And then it can also be you personally work with companies to solve problems together with them. So this solving practical problem perspective. I also like to emphasize that the process of searching for literature should be iterative. You observe a problem, you go look at the literatures and see whether the literature has studied, understood the problem before. Is there any tools, techniques that we can use? And is it necessary to create new knowledge? All right. So the way you do this is that all this iteration process bring you to what we call problematization. You are trying to do a few things. First, you're trying to think about the problem from the manager perspective. You're trying to think about the problem from a society perspective, from a government perspective, and then from a researcher perspective. From the researcher's perspective, the question is, do I have current knowledge about these problems? Or do I have tools, techniques, theories to understand the problem? And if not, then maybe I should find a way to create some solutions or some research to understand it. It is where idea is generated compared to a very early stage of idea generations according to the Mensa account model. All right. You can substantially justify your research because you want to emphasize not just you have a contribution to theory or the field or the technique tools that you have developed, but also the society in here. All right. So I hope this is going to be helpful for you. I'll give you some examples about one of my research projects at the moment. I have a project working with some supply chain companies to use machine learning to predict fashion product returns. I have some ideas about product returns. At the very beginning, I have some idea about literatures, but then I work with companies to look at some of the data they have, some of the processes they are using to manage product returns, and there I understood how manager see the problems. This is what I call the voice of the manager. And then I understand how the industry see the problems. It is the voice of the industry. And then I go to literatures to understand how literatures understood the problem, the voice of the academic literature. And there you combine these three ideas together to problematize and develop a research project. And that it becomes more meaningful because for me, question is not just about trying to write some Python codes and solve the predicting modeling problems. It is more than that. It is about processes, how people use technologies, how people share information, and how people view the benefit of this technology. Okay. Now to that, I'm going to just show you the next framework that I use to justify that, okay, this is a good idea, this is a good research, and that will create benefit to the field, the scientific community, as well as the people together. I'm going to show you just some of the ideas that I class as red color. Red color means they are actually not necessary and usually do not add new insight to the scientific community. The first one is using the lack of study as a contribution, because you don't actually advance any theory on add any understanding. The same thing is you do a literature review that try to try to understand topics because I don't actually talk about theories and advanced understanding and tools that we can use. The second category in here is what I call recycle of known concepts. Of course, we can borrow theories and methods and concepts from other fields, but using these very existing concepts do not necessarily help us to review something that is new. Okay, you review the familiar things instead of what we do not know and what we need to know. Okay, and there's also a tendency to use broad grand theory, such as resource-based view, for example, and that actually do not necessarily help us to understand what is happening today in a more complex world. What I appreciate is this yellow color category of kind of research, more observation-based, because they provide evidence and data to show us what is happening today, what managers think about the technologies, and what policymakers think about technologies, and which contradict with the tools or the theory that we use, and which help us a bit about new phenomena. This is a very good starting point to help us to advance our view and understanding. And then I try to suggest our focus, if we have some of this data, on what we call new understanding. And there are 5 bullet points here. I give you just about some examples of this. The first one is to review a new perspective on the familiar. So if you think about technology management or innovation management, how innovation is created, it is very familiar to us. Okay. However, we are in a different stage where the technologies are going to be different. We don't actually have knowledge about how these new technologies are used, can be used, etc. Okay. So review a new perspective on something familiar is something very important. I'll give you one example of a papers published in my journal. Is that this example is nothing to do with technology, but I give you examples that make you understand why something familiar can also be interesting. In my journals, we talk about agility can improve performance or customer satisfaction. And it is very obvious, very familiar topic. What we need to understand is sometimes there are different types of customers. Does agility make every customer satisfied and so on? That's not necessarily the case. So there's a paper that actually proved to us that there are different reactions to agility. If you are a loyal customers and you are new customers, if you are new customers not loyal to the supplier, you actually can appreciate and can satisfy with the agility a lot more than you are already a loyal customer. So loyal customers has different expectations, and that is the kind of thing that we can add to the existing knowledge base. Okay. The other thing is answer important questions that had not been asked before. And this is a very important part because there are a lot of questions that has not been asked before in this case, in the Industrial Revolution. So for example, there are lots of people talking about supply chain finance. And practically, supply chain finance are usually led by the banks or financial institutions or the buyers. All right. And the new questions that we have asked in one of the papers in my journals is, okay, what if logistics service provider take that role? What if logistics service providers take over the ownership of the products in the transportation process, as well as financial role? What will happen to the supply chain? Is it a better solutions? Is it a problem? And so on. And that is the kind of questions not only academic ask, but also logistics service providers are asking that kind of questions. Okay, asking new questions that are important or that has not been asked before. Okay, and there are many other things that you can do, like you find out a research that has got a widely accepted questions, but you are trying to find new answers to the same questions. All right, very familiar questions, including what drive adoptions of technologies and so on, but you coming with a new answers to it. Okay, or you can prove that there are major assumptions of theory that is perhaps not valid anymore, and you can develop appropriate concept theories or tools that we need to understand the new revolution. Ultimately, all this will build up a knowledge base for us, someone, to create significant new understanding of theory. I'd like to draw your attention to something that we see in the past here. We learn about how scientific methodology is used, tailored scientific management, when the industrial revolutions is starting in the second phase. Then we learn about Toyota production system. We learn about the use of Six Sigma, and we learn about some supermarket in the US trying to work together to develop a barcode and so on. All these innovations can be theorized, explained. And what is happening to the fourth revolution? One of us maybe will be the one who developed a new way of thinking, a new way of managing digital operations, and so on. And that is the one that we are looking forward to see in the future. So I'd like to draw your attention, hopefully you don't mind, I show you one of the sort of special issues that we developed trying to promote this way of thinking in our research, a theory-driven approach to understand Industry 4.0, special issues which is going to be due next year, August. And that special issues, we sort of move away from the tradition asking abstract academic questions, but we want to highlight questions that is in the head of the supply chain managers. And the main questions, if you look at the heading, is how is technology innovation created in a supply chain? Right? Because this is a very important big question that can drive us to continue doing this and benefit the industry or the supply chain if we can explain and develop ways to create technology innovation in the supply chain. The question asked by manager today, based on our observations and listening, working with companies, is that, okay, there are so many technologies, how can I put the right combination of them? And the manager question is not just about technology, because what they have is they have existing organization structures, processes, they have existing technology platforms, how they can incorporate a new one into the existing one or transform the existing one to a new one. There can also be a lot of organizations who are perhaps not in the position to develop and invent their own technology. They have to think about whether they want to become the early mover to adopt some of this, develop themselves, or they want to wait for technology to become matured and widespread. These are all big questions that managers ask. And what we need to do is to be a part of this and understand how they will address this kind of problems. All right. So I'm going to move on to some of the ideas that I talked about. I mentioned about recycling of known concepts. Sometimes I call this a black box approach because picking some known concept from innovation management, technology management literature, like ambidexterities, explorations, absorptive capacities, things like that, and bring it into our field to understand emerging problem, can be very limited sometimes, depending on how you use it and how deep you go into understanding the problem. If you just use this label and briefly, in an abstract manner, bring it to understand our problems, you're actually not going to give us new understanding. What I want to suggest here is to emphasize more on understanding the process in which managers, policymakers engage with this new emerging phenomenon. Innovation in the supply chains or organization or industry can be driven by science. So I'm impressed to see ITS having lots of science and technology emphasis to develop those scientific-driven innovation. That is just part of the story because that technologies should be integrated, used, and a great benefit for the supply chain. What we want is focus on understanding some of these very fundamental early stage technology exploration processes, like how managers categorize and view different technology, how they try different technologies, how they reflect on the experiment and make a conclusion, yes, no, can we use it in combination with others. And more importantly is to understand how managers change and deconstruct their own principles and old orthodox that prevent them from thinking in a new way. And how they learn, how they search problem, how they integrate knowledge, how they generate idea, bringing ideas from different industry into the context of different industry and different settings, like in Indonesia and so on. In today's world, you can see lots of companies trying to explore this using things like proof of concept, minimum viable prototype. How do we do that? How do they do that? And this is all very new to operation and supply chain managers because they are not naturally trained in an R&D position, and they need to now learn to do this themselves. So how to categorize technologies, for example, is questions that we need to help managers to address. Now, if you look at this chart here, lots of different technologies. How do managers navigate and pick and choose technologies so that they can understand what they can do with it, or how the industry can be disrupted by someone else if someone else uses different technologies to disrupt themselves, the industry. And instead of having a blank label and label all these technologies as Industry 4.0 and then all of them having same benefit, I'd like you to think about refining the way we categorize them because they have different purposes and advantages. What managers usually think is the physical activities down here on productions, warehousing, storage, and transportation, and how to serve customers. What they need to think about is use combination of different technologies that serve different purposes. For example, there's a need to identify products, transport, warehouse, and so on. And there's also a need to capture technologies. So these two different functionalities are very important in terms of how we differentiate the combinations use of technology. And the third one would be how we can automate some of these and technologies and activities. Then, of course, beyond this, it's more the cyber part, that intelligent part, where we need to store the information. We need to have applications where people can use, interact with, and understand the data. But behind this is the engine that allow us to understand and create smart decisions, analytics. And more so as in the supply chain setting, you need to be able to trace, and then at the same time, protect your information security, and so on. All right. When we classify the technology in a more refined manner, we can start to help managers to understand the different combinations. And next, I want to talk about research in a different setting. Today, we want to focus on technology, people, and innovations. I want to divide it into three categories here. The first thing you think about is maybe some of us can write Python codes and deal with robotic technologies. We can contribute to this kind of innovation. But we have to understand not all these technologies are ready, and we need to help managers to understand how this technology can be made available, combined together for the benefit of the industry. The second thing is to understand what managers think. As I said, managers have different ways of viewing, using, integrating technologies. We need to help them to understand how they can perhaps use some of these technologies and use them to develop and improve the management system. The third one is going to innovation, which is something that operation supply chain literature lack understanding of, is how managers manage innovation. How do they search knowledge, learn? How do they adapt different technologies? How do they invent their own innovation processes? How do they engage with the supply chain to innovate? The second perspective is to go beyond just the industry, the supply chain, but look at the bigger society. That is very important because the technology can be used for different purposes, good or bad, for the industry and for the society. Again, we have technologies that can affect the supply chain. What is important for us is to help to shape in the way in which the technology is being used at the policy level. We understand that technology can be fantastic because they can help automate, increase productivities, and make us more intelligent. But many of these technologies are led by technology companies, not by the industry you see in your countries in many occasions. All right, it can create jobs, technology jobs. It can also destroy jobs. It can be used by some governments and some people for civilians, military, weaponry, crimes purpose. But it can also be used for good purposes like sustainability, equality, and combating poverty. All right. So what we need to do is understand the implications or disruptions that this technology can create at the economy and societal level, jobs, well-being, their safety, their privacies, whether they actually have to become more unequal and in their wealth and in their income because of these technologies, how we can actually make it a more equal sharing of the technology benefit than we have today. Okay. Now going to a bigger pictures from that, if you look at our professions, operations supply chain professions, if you are from the companies, you are asking yourself a question, wow, how my new supply chain might look like? Do we change the way we work, the jobs, the kind of people we use or train, how the supply chain might look like? Because there is a lot of debate now in different blogs and even Harvard Business Review saying that, oh, there's no more future for this profession because everything will be managed by machines. Is it true? Do we want this kind of futures and so on? Now I'm bringing you to this slide here, which is the second last one, to look at a map of Indonesia and Malaysia. This is how technology can be used. But the question is whether it's good or bad. We have to answer that. Unilever, for example, very concerned about palm oil supply chain. They have created some technologies using GPS and artificial intelligence to map the palm oil estates in Indonesia and Malaysia. So they can see when the forests are burning. They can see what happened to different plants. They can expect and predict the flow of palm oil from one place to another. And they can start to become more sort of transparent if they want to. They can also choose not to be transparent given the data they have and so on. Is it good for people in Indonesia? The question is maybe yes, maybe no. And who is using the technologies? Who is getting benefit from the data, from the technology? Who is going to shape this policy to enable or a fair benefit of these technologies? The question is that we have to really help to shape this instead of leaving this to the wealthy companies to decide your fate. Right, this is just some final ideas about what we can do from a management perspective. Now, we know there are new ideas that can benefit the industry, like Toyota production system, like the Six Sigmas and so on in the past. Now we are in a new digital environment. And what we can do, we can shape our field is to rewrite our textbook, for example, rewrite the way we manage the organizations as well as supply chain. Because we will be thinking about operations which is a combination of digital and autonomous operations, digital workforces, management of data analytics instead of just data analytic, machine learning, and so on. We're talking about how supply chain learn, how supply chain innovate and transform using technology. Okay, so I'm going to just give you a final framework here that I use. If you run a big research centers or research institute, I'd like you to think about this beyond just, I want to publish some journal papers. What we want to think about is the final destinations. We want to create and help industries, policymakers, governments to solve their problems, to become more sustainable as well as more competitive and prosperous for everybody, not just single group of people. All right, that is the ultimate goal if we want to be impactful in our research. We start with basic academic research that we all have been doing using different approach. We have labs and research centers and come up with new theories, methods, and so on. We create knowledge and we publish this into the journals. What is missing in between is many of us do not do, but we actually should try to think about the different way in which we can work with the industry. A way to do it is demonstration. Work with industry is demonstrate to them what works and what not. Work in the industry, develop frameworks that industry can use together with the industry, process frameworks and maturity frameworks, for example. And not to forget, we need to have this sort of knowledge transfer activities. And I'm not talking about just teaching students in the class, but actually working together with companies, speaking in the industry conferences and writing blogs that managers read. And that is the way in which we can eventually, hopefully, create knowledge and impact in the industry. I hope all this makes sense to you, and I've been giving you lots of information. So I hope and it could be thought-provoking as well as a useful presentation here. This is my context, and if you, of course, want to be get in touch, you can find me. And again, I also have another interest in sustainability, and that's the book that you might want to consider. And I'd like to thank again everyone for listening, and I hope these presentations make sense to you and give you some ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Wong. What's a great keynote today. So we learned so much today from you. So starting with how to do research, and then also then understanding the real life phenomenon. And then you also touch about the theories and then the problems and how to solve the industry problems, and as well as the framework that you suggested for us to better understand how to do research and understanding the use of how technology being used. And the key is how can we then do research that is impactful and contributing to the community and businesses and industry. So that's a really great keynote that I heard. And I'm sure you all agree with me. And we don't have that much time at the moment. So we have 3 minutes. So I'm just wondering if there is any question from the audience. You can type the question on the chat, or you can ask me the question.
Yes,
If
everyone, welcome to ask questions.
Sorry?
Just saying welcome if there's any questions.
Yes. Doesn't seem to have many questions. There is one coming in. How does the professor think we can initiate research endeavor with industry and managers? So I think the point there more of how can we do collaboration with industry? I think that's often, issues with many of the university and researcher.
Yes, I just want to give you some ideas what can be done, and lots of people has done this before. In engineering faculties, they are usually working with companies because companies use their lab to work together, and that is a starting point where if you come from business school and management school, you work with engineering colleagues and then understand manager problem beyond technology challenges. That's one thing you could do. And I like the conference this way because Professor Pujawan also invited practitioners and managers. For example, in my case, I run a conference every year, and my conference consists of mostly industry speakers and not academic speakers. And every year we have managers telling us the problems they face, the solutions they have done, and so on. And I have researchers sitting there listening, interacting with them. But it's another way where industries are brought into our community and share with us their challenges and problems. And in the industry, there are also some industrial-led supply chain conferences where I became a committee, or I went to speak to the managers. Of course, if you are not yet a professor, it's difficult to get invited, but you can make some of these people notice about your work. And if you are actually trying to answer real-world problems, writing blogs to tell people your research that can solve problems, do not using theory jargons and so on. That goes to their mind, and they see, okay, this person knows something about so-and-so technology, or this person knows something about how to create transformation. Yes, and they will be contacted you if you make impressions to people that you have that kind of ability. So yes, trying very much to go out of academic ivory tower and work with lots of companies. If you can show them that you have some knowledge and interest, of course, you need to work with companies to gain your reputations as well.
Thank you, Professor Wong. Just one more question here, if you can answer it in 30 seconds, probably. So, Professor Wong, what do you think on pandemic situation with supply chain negative disruption? Can technology be the savior?
Yes, of course. what we need to first recognize is the pandemic show us where is the weak point in the supply chain, and also where is the weak point in the society. Who actually get affected most? The poorer people, right? And who get the vaccine first? The rich countries, all right? And when this disruption took place, I studied with some of my colleagues about food supply chain. What we realized, according to also United Nations, is that they worried so much about the food in the low-income country because they cannot afford the supply, because the supply chain of food being disrupted, and that become a challenge. Now, all these countries rely heavily on aids from United Nations. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have the medical facilities, medicines that they need. That is the first thing we need to understand. And the question is, you have to ask ourselves in our field, how many of us actually do research in that kind of capacity, in that kind of setting, to help United Nations to get the supply to the people who are vulnerable? And why do we do this kind of research? Yes, we know some technologies. Why don't we help them and work with them? That is the kind of questions I ask. Is of course a bit provocating, but I hope we understand a bit more our role that we can do. It's not that we do not understand the technology, but we do not necessarily think about how the technology can be used for good.
Thank you, Professor Wong. Thank you again for all of your advice, and very wise advice. So I think the lesson for us as an academic is also think about what the research you're doing, what kind of impact then you can make on for your research, not just because you're doing it because the dean asked you to do so, or also just because you want a promotion. So I think that's a bigger thinking, a bigger things to, rather than just being very narrow, with a very narrow objective. So thank you very much. I don't think we have much of the time now, but I just want to say thank you, and let's everyone to join me to say thank you for your kind and wise words today in the keynote speaker, and we do learn a lot from it. So thank you, Ms. Professor. And yes, and thank you everyone for coming to this session as well.
Thank you for listening. You're welcome.
Welcome. All right. Thank you, Professor Chee from Leeds University, for the insightful presentation. And now, to express our gratitude, we would like to ask Professor Chee Wong to receive a certificate as a token appreciation that will be given by Professor Nyoman Pujawan as the chairman of OSCM 2020. And to Professor Nyoman Pujawan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Wong, for very insightful talk this afternoon. So please receive our token of appreciation as e-certificate. And thank you very much once again for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
All right. Also, we would like to ask our moderator, Professor Dr. Caroline Chan from Monash University, to receive the token appreciation. It means a certificate that will be given by Chairman of OSCM 2020, Professor Nyoman Pujawan.
Okay, to Caroline, this is just a token of appreciation, just a e-certificate award to you. Thank you very much for your contribution in this conference.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Nyoman. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Professor Chee Wong and Professor Dr. Caroline Chen from Monash University. And those are the agendas that we have presented to you this afternoon as we have finished our opening ceremony. And coming up to the last session, we are going to have a parallel session for those who join the parallel session. And please be note that our session will be start after break session, so you can proceed to your presentation room after that. And before you have break session, so there will be a photo session. So I would like to invite to all of the audiences to open the camera. All right, once again, I would like to invite to all of the audiences to open the camera because there will be a photo session, so we can take a photo for the documentation. All right, and now I will count down from 3, 2, one, and smile. All right. Once again, from 3, 2, 1, give the best smile. Right. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And as the master of ceremony, we want to thank to all of the audiences, the committees, also our speaker and our great moderator today. And if in guiding this event, I made a mistake or offend someone here, please forgive me. And finally, thank you for your attention. And Lukman Ali signing off. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you everyone. So we will see you in the parallel session if you have time to join.
Thank you.
Bu Caroline, thank you. Professor Wong, thank you very much.
Okay.